Okay, so I'm going to be reacting to LS Mark's new video for Doogal, which Butch Hartman, creator of the Fairly Odd Parents, contributed to. Now, the reason why I decided to start reacting to LS Mark videos is because the thought came to my mind that he might review a certain piece of media that connects in one way or another to other media that he has covered in the past. Of course, this isn't what I had in mind. In fact, I didn't even consider this, although I wish I had. I mean, it was pretty straightforward, to be fair. But I thought this would be a great start. I have seen this film before. My favorite line in it is, "Birds of the Caribbean! Hey, I thought we said no Disney jokes." I like that line. It's a funny line. Although it is pretty problematic. So, without further ado, let's begin.
You're telling me that Butch Hartman wrote a kids movie? Yes, indeed. On my never-ending quest to watch and review
I don't get it.
every single thing this man has ever graced
Whoa,
with his presence,
okay.
we know I have stumbled upon one of the most interesting cases of a studio meddling with a movie that I've ever seen. Taking what was once a beloved French-British cartoon and stripping it of anything that made it unique and appealing. What movie am I talking about? Doogal. Also, look at this. When I went to VidCon in 2019, I asked Butch to draw me Doogal, thinking it would come out really bad, but what do you know, he did a good job. Many of you have probably heard of Doogal before. Releasing in 2006, it's often regarded as one of the worst animated movies of all time, for a variety of reasons, such as poor animation, shoddy voice acting, and its worst crime of all, starring Jimmy Kimmel. When I heard this, I was super confused. I remember watching this all the time as a kid. And sure, you're not going to be finding it on the Criterion Collection anytime soon, but it's certainly not the worst thing in the world, right? This is when I realized that for some bizarre reason, this film has two English versions. The original produced for England, and the second which was redubbed for American audiences, with the American version being the more well-known one, although not for good reason. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time a studio's taken a beloved British property and turned it into an awful American remake. So now what we have here is a movie that strangely enough has two pretty different versions of the same thing. Is that common? Well, it has happened before. Ironically enough, we can see...
Oh, right. It was Death at a Funeral. Never mind.
The very same thing when it came to the reason the franchise became so popular in the first place. Like I said, as a kid I watched this all the time, except where I come from, it's known as the Magic Roundabout, sharing the name with its television counterpart, which was a stop-motion series created in France in 1964, starring the Hancock-esque dog Doogal, with his owner Florence, the performative cow Ermintrude, the very much not a stoner rabbit Dylan, well-meaning Sneal Bryan, and the magical Jack-in-the-Box Zebedee, all residing in the Magic Garden, this place where the titular roundabout resides. Off topic, but there used to be a restaurant in Ireland I'd regularly visit called Zebedee's.
How is that off topic?
As their mascot. Yeah, they repainted a few years ago, probably after realizing that isn't very, legal. The series was popular with kids, but received rave reviews and attained a cult-like status when it was translated for British audiences in 1965. Not just with babies either. Apparently when the BBC moved the series from their evening slot to one more appropriate for kids, they received multiple complaints from adults, who also watched and enjoyed the show. I mean, what adult likes children's cartoons? What weenies. Just why was the series so popular in the first place, though?
You know, I could have sworn that the movie was an adaptation of something. At first I thought it was like a comic or something. I guess I could have just done that research myself.
Well, supposedly, it came from the main character himself, Doogal, with his world-weary comments that adults find humor in. I think this is due to, instead of directly translating the scripts, the English writers instead opted to tell their own completely different stories, simply using the French footage as a base. Also, it might have something to do with the fact that the world these creatures inhabit is very bizarre and nonsensical, with some very obvious metaphors to some deeper stuff going on in the background, such as the main character Doogal being obsessed with sugar cubes, which is undoubtedly a reference to French leader Charles de
This isn't going the direction I thought it was.
His favorite food was sugar cubes that were laced with, Can I say that? Oh, okay, guys, take the first two letters of my channel name and you fill in the blanks. But why am I talking about this, you may ask? Where could Butch Hartman possibly fit into all of this?
I'm
Well,
wondering where
when the film
they
rights
got
were
the
bought up
idea
by
for
a
his
very
name.
nice man who I'm sure has never been put in jail
I said I wonder where he got the idea for his name.
for doing anything wrong. He enlisted the help of none other than our good pal Butch Hartman to rewrite the thing to appeal to American audiences. And how did it turn out? But what was the reason behind it being received so poorly? Especially with the original getting at least somewhat decent reviews. And more importantly, what was Butch's response to this? As we all know, he's the king of excusing poor products he's made.
So is
let's
this a
find out what he
review of the
said,
film
and
or
what
a
the
response
differences
to
between
his
the two
video
movies
for
are
it?
that made the American one so much worse. But first, I want to tell you about Bespoke Post. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club delivering epic boxes of top-shelf goods from under-the-radar brands. Every month, their members are introduced to cool new products from outdoor gear to home, kitchen
I don't
goods
like
and
that name,
clothing,
Bespoke
all based on a
Post.
quiz you fill
Sounds
out.
like a tongue
Each box has
twister.
around
It's
$70
not
worth
good.
of goods inside, which you can get for a fraction of the price. You can even preview the box before it's shipped out to you, and you can decide to either keep it, swap it for another, or heck, if you're not a
Besides,
fan,
this
you can
video
skip
is
it all
pretty
together for no
short
charge
for
at
an
all.
LS
I'm a
Mark
big fan
video.
of the
It's about
Weekender
11
box,
minutes
coming
long.
with this amazing, durable, and stylish
And-
bag that's great to have when you're on the move. And also this over easy box, containing helpful tools and ingredients to make breakfast with, like an iron skillet, a leather pot holder,
No,
Bloody
he's
Mary mix,
doing this.
pancake mix, and maple syrup. You got a whole dang meal right there. So to get 20% off your first box, click the link in the description and enter code LSMark at checkout, or go to bespokepost.com/LSmark. And thanks to Bespoke Post for sponsoring.
So looking at the things that I'm seeing right here, I'm not exactly sure if Bespoke Post knows what it wants to be. I'm guessing it's supposed to be like Walmart but wholesome or something. But I don't know.
This video. Let's begin by talking about the major differences between the two versions. Then after, discuss Butch's excuses for the awful end product. The Magic Roundabout largely has the same setup as the original show. This cast of characters live in a town with a carousel in the center. Except after clumsily hijacking a food cart, Doogal unleashes the evil counterpart to Zebedee from the roundabout. Want to know what his name is?
Seabad.
Bad. Oh, sorry, I forgot to laugh.
Whatever happens, you mustn't blame yourself.
Yes you should. After he's released, he completely... Oh, sorry, I forgot to laugh.
Whatever happens, you mustn't blame yourself.
Yes you should. After he's released, he completely freezes the thing, with Doogal's owner Florence being trapped inside. And so Zebedee informs the apparent only residents of this town that they've got to go on a quest to find 3 diamonds before Zebad. As if so, he's gonna engulf the whole world in ice. From this point on, it follows a pretty standard formula. Kind of feels like the setup for a video game more than a movie, with them having to travel to distinct locations to retrieve a MacGuffin, with each time Zebad coming in at the last minute to steal it from them. A whole bunch of nothing happens throughout the runtime to try and make you think that the story is progressing in some way. Zebedee supposedly dies 30 minutes in. They try to give characters like Doogal an arc of learning not to be so greedy. And the Sneal wants to frick the cow for some reason, but again, not
That doesn't sound... Okay.
much is done here. Literally none of this even matters by the end. When they return back to the roundabout and see that it's been completely frozen over, with Zebad having collected all the Chaos Emeralds, the cow just sings in a high pitch and it breaks all the ice. That's all it needed to do. They could have just straight up sat in place for a couple days until Zebad got all the crystals and came back into the same thing, and none of it would have been different. Great. It's so weird having watched this thing again, because it's made me realize how as a kid, you just accept half the stuff going on here despite there being no rhyme or reason. Like them calling Zebedee's name 3 times and not summoning him, like he's Beetlejuice or something. They never even established that. Or the box they receive. That when pressed, it just gives them something random to get out of the scenario. Like, why do they only use it like twice? I would have fucking spammed that shit. Or how about when Florence says,
Come on, children, we have to be brave.
"You're also a child, why are you talking like that?" The animation for the time also wasn't the best. This movie came out in 2005, which was the same year as Madagascar, Robots, and even a movie that doesn't have the best CGI like Chicken Little. Looks 10 times better than this. The designs for the main cast,
Thought he was gonna say hoodwinked.
though, it's that I like the voice acting. Mainly the villain, who I feel gives a good menacing performance. This film isn't that bad. It's not good, but I can see why I liked it a ton as a kid. It's only an hour and 25 minutes with the pacing being pretty fast. I don't really see why this needed to have been changed for American audiences. I guess good old Harvey didn't see American kids finding a British program appealing. Isn't Peppa Pig like the biggest thing in the fucking world? I couldn't possibly see how the American version could be that much worse though. I mean, all you gotta do is take the original and redub it. There really isn't that much British slang in here, so
you don't even have to do that.
Right?
Wait, move! That was great!
That's gross.
2 words, sir. Personal hygiene. So
Nice.
70.
The first line is out of sync. Alright, so for some bizarre...
So, that's not the best evil voice I've ever heard, but hearing Jon Stewart say "Zebedee" like that is pretty charming, I guess.
reason they felt it wasn't nearly enough to just add some American slang in there and call it a dad like dude or bro or man. Instead, they thought the only way kids would enjoy this thing is if they filled it to the brim with references of
Well, that's even more wholesome now that you think about it.
movies and video games and shows like The Matrix, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Halo.
Hey, I thought we said no Disney jokes!
Like in the original, they at least understand that not every single character needed to be constantly making quips, whereas here, nobody ever...
Whoa. Look at what happened to the moose. Did he get drenched in oil or something?
shuts the hell up.
No. Master Chief ate it.
There are points here where characters will just say reference after reference. There was no restraint at all.
Here's Johnny.
Someone order ribs.
Bring it up to Dad. Pirates of the Caribbean.
That.
Hey, thought we said no Disney jokes.
What's that? Oh, look, we got Bone Thugs and Harmony up in here.
That was like 5 references in the span of 10 seconds. Not to mention all the voice.
Could have just done with the one. The best one.
Cast were replaced with infinitely worse actors who were only chosen because they're celebrities, like the aforementioned Jimmy Kimmel, Whoopi Goldberg, and Lincoln Loud.
An unforeseeable accident. That's a pretty bad flat.
They even give voice roles to characters who in the original didn't even speak, like the Moose, who is now voiced by Kevin Smith on a fart signboard.
Well, it's my birthday. Go.
You know, Kevin Smith also didn't talk. I'll let you figure that out for yourself.
The biggest issue here is their lack of restraint. There are so many pointless additions that weren't needed
Lack of restraint. Didn't we already go over that? I don't know. Maybe he's talking about something else.
here at all. Such as the narrator, who just explains everything and all the dynamics during the intro, while the original had none.
There's Brian, the snail. Brian loved Ermintrude.
Great, thanks, couldn't figure that for myself. Then when a character isn't on screen, they make them say like a million quips, because they know they don't have to bother to try and make it match up with the audio. But it's not even like that was something on their mind, because half of these lines don't match up with the voices.
I train with Morpheus.
Morbius? But then while they're adding all this stuff, they actively removed stuff from the original that
He clearly said Morpheus. I don't know if he was trying to make a joke. I don't know if he knew that he said Morbius. Morpheus. It's not Morbius, it's Morpheus.
help the story, such as a dream Doogal has of his owner and friends, which gives them the motivation to get back up and continue trying to find Florence while at their darkest moment. Yet here they just go
You know, the way that sounds, it feels like they don't trust the audience to remember well enough what just happened in the beginning.
to sleep, wake up, and are like, oh cool, we're here? This shit sucks.
Hold up. Go back.
Which gives them the motivation to get back up and continue trying to find Florence while at their darkest moment. Yet here they just go to sleep, wake up, and are like, oh cool, we're here?
Oh! Wow, everyone's dead! Cool, I have the whole world to myself! Just looking at that and hearing part of that.
Shit sucks. I don't know how you could possibly take an already not great movie and make it even worse. But hey, if anyone could do it,
Are you sure?
it'd have to be Butch, right? While Butch has acknowledged that he did indeed get brought in to write a new version, even pitching new ideas such as an opening with a live-action scene of a granddad reading the story of the film to the grandson, which had to be cut due to budget, but he claims that when he sat down to watch the finished product, only roughly 3% of his original script was kept in, claiming that they must have brought in somebody else to rewrite his rewrite. No, I'm not one to call Butch a liar, and I'm sure some of it was changed, but I don't know. 3% seems like a weird amount to keep. Like, keep any at all if it's only gonna be like 3 lines of dialogue. Also, as we all know, he has a common trend when it comes to discussing things that he's released that didn't get the best feedback, such as the introduction of characters like Poof, Sparky, and Chloe into the Fairly Odd Parents, where he always says, "That wasn't my fault, guys. Nick wanted me to add in a new character. Blame them, not me." But like, I don't think Nick specifically asked you to make bad characters. That the part's on you. Not to...
Okay, but the reboots still, they'd much rather have a Fairly Odd Parents reboot than another season of MLATR.
mention if Harvey was so focused on putting this out as cheaply as possible, I doubt he would have bothered going through the trouble of hiring multiple writers. Especially when Butch says he had already finished his script and directed the actors to do their lines. Like, this all seems a little too convenient, doesn't it? So I don't know. I feel like if this were something that Butch didn't write and had next to nothing to do with, he wouldn't have only started to clarify it wasn't him upon gaining a huge social media presence and having people clown on him for this blunder. And so it stands among his other monumental blunders, along with the Fairly Odd Parents reboot, Bunsen as a Beast, and PINY Institute of New York. What the hell?
Okay. This video was alright. I'd still watch Dad's reviews video over this one for the film. That's all. Thank you for sticking around. Bye.